Hello, everybody.
Hi guys. Looks like
Happy Monday.
happy Monday. How's everybody doing today?
It's crazy busy.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that's good. Busy is good.
absolutely. It's better than doing nothing.
For sure. Okay, I'm making sure that we're streaming on all the pages.
So we're going on all cylinders.
Yes, ma'am.
Uh,
Looks like we are. Now I'm going to enable comments. All right. So if anybody has questions, we're ready to check them out. Okay. So today we're talking about mindset and consistency.
yeah, something that is totally needed when you are doing all of this.
Absolutely. And I feel like it's especially like timely right now to talk about this because I think that we're still in kind of a weird space in terms of, sort of what's happening in the world. We're still in the middle of a pandemic, and depending on where you are, you might have different, sort of, um, what's the term that I want to use? Like different limitations happening in wherever you're living. Some places are open completely. Some places are still on a modified schedule. Some places are still completely locked down. And I think that that can have, things changed pretty drastically, I think, for everybody in 2020. And now that everybody's in a different place, I think that can have a pretty big impact on, your your mindset, and two, how consistent you can be with whatever it is that you're working on.
I also think, I mean, if it's so, mindset has a lot. Speaking for myself, so even though if this pandemic wasn't going around or there weren't any lockdowns, summers, at least here in Arizona, are kind of slow down a little bit
Mm-hmm.
because it is so hot. So I remember even back, a year ago, where it was, it would take a lot for me to actually step outside because it's just hot. And being in a car and getting down and going
Yep.
to somebody's door or to a meeting, whatever, it's like it takes it out of you. So not only I think the climate has a lot to do with it, and I think in the East Coast and some of the other places, maybe it's in the winter where it gets a little bit harder. But yes, speaking in the living terms that we are doing now, it changes everything if you had some sort of a routine in place already. So your mindset and trying to make sure that you do keep yourself going is
Mm-hmm.
super important.
Absolutely, 100%. And I know that we've experienced, just in our particular business model, some changes that have affected directly our consistency and sort of our ability to do things, because with our business model being largely sort of dependent on foreclosure, and foreclosure being suspended at the moment, that has definitely affected business for us, because your intention obviously is to keep things rolling because you know that this isn't going to last forever. um,
Right.
and every savvy marketer out there knows that you have to continue to do what you're doing in order to keep business going, because when people are ready to make decisions again about potentially selling a property, for example, you know, you can't, you don't want to be there too late. You want to have built that up over the time while things were slow, like they are right now. Um, and that can be difficult to do when it seems like one of your sort of sources for how you did business, or your lead sources, has been completely suspended. you know, that's a little bit tricky in terms of how do you stay consistent when that
Yeah.
happens.
Yeah. It's like you have to find a new routine for you to be
Yes.
consistent. Nothing is the same anymore, at least for now. Hopefully in the winter, it'll, who knows, maybe. But I think for this year, and it shows something to us, right? That what we thought was our routine doesn't necessarily mean that it's going to be there forever. So we should plan accordingly. So a lot of us should have had a plan B and a plan C, maybe even a plan D, um, because things are changing on the daily, on the daily. So we don't know if I can go back to what I was doing last December, this December. So
Right.
yeah, it is very uncertain, and it definitely has created a ton of, I know, anxiety for me at times, where it's really hard to figure out, so what am I supposed to do now, or how do I make this better for myself?
Absolutely. Yeah. I feel like everybody in small business across the board right now is probably in that space. And definitely other people who are in real estate, I think, are, you know, feeling a similar kind of disruption, you know. I think we just lost your sound. No, your sound is totally off right now. We're going to try to take care of our technical difficulty that we're having right now. And there she goes.
It was muted for some reason. It just kind of muted itself. How weird.
You know, Zoom's been doing some interesting things with how many people have been on
Yeah.
recently. So yeah, yay, we're back.
Yeah. So you were saying.
I was just saying that I think anybody in small business is definitely feeling what we're feeling right now in terms of having to shift gears very quickly and having the full routine disrupted. And then I think in real estate, we've seen really specific disruptions happen, right?
Mhm.
So anybody who does what we do, I think might be struggling right now to figure out how do you stay consistent. And I think so. I think we should talk about mindset from a standpoint of even without everything that's happening right now, that has sort of thrown, you know, a monkey wrench into everybody's daily business. Because I definitely feel that mindset has a huge impact on, you know, living as an entrepreneur altogether. And then there are some, you know, there are some specific things I think in real estate that mindset has a big effect on, because we're talking about a business that's cyclical, even even when there's not a global pandemic, and all kinds of other craziness happening all at the same time in the world. When the world is functioning normally, there's still cycles in real estate. And definitely here in Arizona, one of the cycles that happens for us is things get slow during the summer.
Mhm.
Because across the board, people don't want to do stuff when it's 115 degrees outside.
Exactly.
I mean, the only people who are moving in 115 are the people who have no choice. So
Yeah.
anyone who has a choice in the matter is waiting it out.
Yep.
You know, and so we see that anyway and have to plan for that. But I think that I have learned a lot of different things about what mindset means, for our business, because in a business where you need to build a pipeline, it
Mhm.
can be discouraging because it feels like you're not getting anywhere. Forward progress doesn't always feel like it's happening, even if you're doing action towards it. And that can be something difficult in terms of keeping your mindset where it needs to be. You can definitely start feeling like I'm putting all this work into something and I don't see anything happening from it. Did you
Yeah.
have that experience too?
Yeah, and I think, and it happens, and like we said, especially right now, granted, I mean, I've been lucky enough that I work for a wholesale company that we've kept busy and things are moving along. So even though you can, because of everything that's out in social media and the media itself and things that are just reports and news and all that good stuff, um, you you kind of take it in and you do this stress thing like, am I gonna be okay? But then you think, well, no, I'm still working, I still have my flips going, there's still things, that are coming in, but then you kind of turn around and you're like, but but this might not be there tomorrow. Like, what if something really, really bad happens? Because I mean, at the track, the track record that we have so far, it's not been the best for 2020.
Right.
So it's just been like one negative thing on the other. But again, it's the whole mindset. So you try to like, okay, nope, level up, kind of keep yourself up. Don't try to look at that too much. Just keep going. You still have work, you still have things to do, but it is hard. So if it was hard last year during the summer for me or somebody else, in this state because of the heat, now it is hot and we're going through all of this. So it's just, it's like double the whole stress factor. Small businesses are like trying their hardest to just stay afloat at this point, and just, yeah, it just personally, and I know other folks out there that have their own businesses and we've spoken, it's so exhausting right now that you feel kind of almost a little ridiculous trying to keep yourself peppy and positive, but
Yeah.
you don't have a choice. Like, you can't go down that other rabbit hole. It's a horrible place to be. Not a good place. It doesn't do anybody any favors or do you any good.
No, for sure. So I think one of the mindset challenges that is like unique to entrepreneurs is that if so right now, if you had a W-2 job and things were a little bit rocky, say, because of what's going on in the world, I think that many people would be of the mindset that, one, they're gonna wait it out and see what happens, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because even if say a large company is going through layoffs, well, you don't know who's going to get laid off and why and all of those things. So people are of the mindset that I have some different options, so maybe I'm going to wait this out, maybe I'll start looking at other jobs to see what else is available, and their thinking is automatically, I'll find something else in my field, or I'll look at what else is available, or maybe they've got experience in a couple of different fields and maybe they could go into something else if necessary.
Yeah.
And so that's kind of the realm that they're coming from.
Mm-hmm.
And when you're an entrepreneur, it can be really, really hard not to get into the mindset of, what if my business just shuts down completely and there's nothing I can do? Because it can feel like that. For us, it's not just, let me go see where else I can work. We're looking at things a little bit differently, right? And we're assessing things differently. So you definitely have to be a little bit more comfortable with adapting, maybe adapting more quickly than you're really comfortable with, or than you really would like, in order to either take advantage of something that is coming your direction that looks like a good opportunity, or to try to mitigate potential problems, right?
Right. And I think, and even at this point where, like you said, if there is something coming down or some sort of an opportunity where you thought yourself, okay, I don't really want to do that, but it will provide some sort of a relief for you, absolutely, by all means. And I would just say, just take it. Because I mean, I know that I've been in a spot where I was just reaching to figure out, like, how do I get out of this particular hole? Things are going well over here, but here not so much. So what do I need to do to give myself some relief and kind of get myself to a place where I'm comfortable again? So there's no shame in whatever. So if you're gonna have to go work at Walmart or what, or sell something online or whatever, doesn't matter. Like, you do what you need to do at this point.
Yeah.
Because again, the mindset is to just, unfortunately, is just to keep, not a bad thing, but keep hustling. You just have to.
Yeah. Yeah. Find a way to keep moving forward. And, you know, like we were saying a minute ago, I mean, I think that that is relevant regardless of kind of what's happening in the world, because, you know, when you first start out doing like real estate investing, for example, it can be really slow going in the beginning. Even if things are great. I mean, you know, Phoenix has been known for having a hot real estate market for a long time. We've got a lot of growth here in Phoenix, and it's continuing to grow all the time. And we have a lot of space for that, which is, you know, we're a little bit unusual compared to other large cities that are already well established, where they don't have space to keep moving and adding like we do. Phoenix still has a ton of space. So there's, you know, there's corporate businesses coming here. There are people moving here from all over. And that has sustained this really, you know, this hot market that's had a great reputation for a long time. And so I think that people might mistakenly assume that, oh, I'm starting a real estate business in a hot real estate market. That means the instant I open my business, I'm just going to have things to do and it's going to be crazy. And that's not the case. All businesses have that growth period, you know, and you have to build a pipeline, and you have to do all of the prep work to get your business out there. And while you're doing that, that can feel like it's taking forever and you're not getting a return. And if you're doing that right now, where things are, you know, not responding as quickly as they have been because of everything else that's going on, it can feel even more like what you're doing isn't really having an effect. But that's not actually the case. You know, there's that saying, I'm sure you've all seen it in memes and whatnot, that like the time is going to pass anyway. And it's true. That time, you know, that time is going to go by. So if you are going, well, I feel really discouraged and I'm going to choose not to do anything inside of my business, or I'm going to choose not to do marketing or whatever it is, like wherever space you're in your business right now, you know, it won't feel vastly different right now from day to day if you choose to stick with those things or if you choose not to. But 6 weeks from now or 6 months from now, that might make all the difference where you're at then. And that's the difficult thing, I think, about mindset, because anybody who is used to or would like to see like instant results, it's really, really difficult. It's difficult to keep the mindset that you need when you're not seeing results. And I think that's one of the trickiest things about entrepreneurship, is having to do things that don't feel like they're giving you results for a period of time before you actually see something happen.
Yeah, because it's almost like you have to be consistent about keeping up your mindset. Yes. Because there's no other way. Like because again, you can be doing the same thing for weeks and really nothing is really happening, but you have to know that, granted, there might be some things that you might be able to change here and there. Obviously, you have to be aware of those things, but know that in the end, like, you are putting yourself in a better place for a few weeks, months down the road. But being consistent about mindset, it's hard. And it's really hard when everything's kind of coming down on you and kind of piling up. It's rough. I think that, and the consistent, because I know that my discipline is not great at 11. There's things and times in my life where my discipline has been top notch. I couldn't be better. And then there's other times in my life where I'm thinking, who am I? Like, what am I doing here? Like, I'm not disciplined enough to keep things going, to be consistent about mindset and keep myself in a place where I'm focused and I'm actually striving to do more and more and more. It's a constant, it's almost, for some of us, I think it's a constant battle. So it is, and again, it's a little exhausting, but again, being consistent and trying to just, or seek, support so that you're able to come to that mindset or that level of, I'm going to do this and I'm going to come out of this.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. And I think there are things in place, or that you can put in place to help take some of the pressure off of the consistency piece.
Mm-hmm.
Because the mindset part of it, like you said, kind of, it never stops. If you stop working on mindset, you'll get stuck. And I can say that because I know from experience, I've gotten stuck several times because my mindset has, gone into a place where either I feel like I'm really limited, or I feel like things aren't working the way that they should. And so that leads to a whole cascade of things. So you start feeling like that, and then now you're not motivated anymore. And so now you're not, the discipline piece, so now you're not doing as much as you were doing before because you feel like, what's the point? It's a waste of my time. And then you can also get stuck in worry, and then you start worrying and you're spending time worrying instead of spending time just getting some, like, things done.
Yeah.
That if you would have just gotten them done, like, you could worry about it afterwards, you could worry about whether it'll work or not after you get them done. But the habit that a lot of people get into is to start worrying about if it's going to work, and then that takes away from them actually taking the action to do something. So
Yeah.
when you get into those spaces, and I think everybody will, it can be really hard to pull yourself out of that. But one of the things I think that is really helpful, is whatever you can automate. So anything that you can automate in your business so that it's being done, whether you take action or not, is huge. Because if you're losing motivation to do marketing, but you've got marketing happening automatically, whether it's social media or, maybe you're having something print sent out, to leads, that can be something right there that you can sort of take that breath for a moment to get your mindset back where it needs to be. But that other piece of the consistency is going on without you having to be disciplined about it all the time.
Yeah.
So I think that is, that's a huge piece. If you can set something up to give you consistency that works, whether or not you feel like doing it, that'll take some pressure off of you, and it'll take some pressure off of your business as well. Because one of the things I think that happens is when we get into that bad mindset, we slow down our own pipeline. And
Yeah.
then it's a self-fulfilling prophecy, right? Because now we've slowed down our pipeline, nothing is happening, and we're like, see, nothing is happening.
Yeah. I know we do it all that we do, I know I've done it before. It was like, well, nothing's happening because you haven't done jack. So, what do you expect?
Yeah.
And it's hard to admit that to yourself too sometimes, because you're almost, you start to kind of go into the victim role a little bit. And then it's just, at that point, you kind of starting to go bottom. So I think you make a really, really good point. I feel like when the automation systems and automation, and then if you don't know about systems and automation, well, then maybe this is the time to learn about it. So then you don't feel like you're just kind of sitting there helpless trying to figure, what am I supposed to do here? Well, then maybe look up, systems, automation, or how do I automate my marketing, my mailings, my phone calls, whatever it is that you're doing, and put it into a system. So that way, at least you know that you are putting work towards something. Because again, the bigger picture is, a few months down the road right now. So anything that can make yourself feel like you're actually putting things into play and working, and then you'll, like Lisa said, after a while, then you can kind of let that run itself. Obviously, you just need to check into it. You just can't leave it alone.
Right.
But at least you have that relief again, that something is working behind the scenes. You're not constantly having to monitor it, and you can maybe then continue on to another thing that you might want to be, you're interested in pursuing or looking more into. So I think system and automation is key for everything really. And I think, and even if it wasn't this kind of situation right now, what's happening in the world, I still think automation has a lot to do with businesses and how they operate.
Yeah.
Period.
Yeah, 100%. Because there's no way to discipline yourself into getting to a space. So eventually, if you do, so say your business model is like ours, if you do what we do long enough, you will have so many leads to keep up with that just sheer discipline won't really be enough to get you through being consistent enough to keep up with them all. Right. I mean, I think I have like 400 leads in my CRM right now.
Mhm.
And so if I were trying to follow up all the time with 400 people just out of sheer discipline that I have to do it myself, I'm going to burn myself out. And that is going to have a direct negative effect on my mindset and a direct negative effect also on my ability to be consistent, because I'm going to get overwhelmed from not having a system to follow up effectively. And that isn't going to take like all my time, right?
Yeah,
Um,
exactly.
because if I'm trying to do all of that, like without any system in place whatsoever, I'm easily going to get overwhelmed about, like the burden that that's going to take to keep organized and do it efficiently. And, and then when you start having a back and forth, when you get people that contact you back, now you've got two things that you're trying to juggle. So, definitely automating those things would be helpful, because if you can get a little bit of help with something going in the background, that takes some of the pressure off of you. Because the thing is, there's a lot of talk in the entrepreneurial spaces about you have to have the appropriate discipline. And I do agree with that. But I also want to say that, like, if you have to force yourself to be super, super disciplined 24/7 and do all these things in your business, you're also going to burn yourself out. There's other things besides discipline that you have to cultivate.
Yeah. And it's not only about the business, right? There has to be a balance. And I feel like a lot of us, when you're an entrepreneur or you own your own business, there's not a lot of balance because you're living for your business, which they say you're not supposed to do. Yeah. Or living in the business. You're not supposed to be in the business, just, kind of just looking at it work. Um, but it puts so much pressure on you. So there's a thing to it, time chunking, right? What they say in time chunking, because it's focused and you kind of put that on your schedule and you're doing your things and you're working with your system and everything's kind of going. But at the same time, I figured out, at least for me, I've seen that when I time chunk everything for the business, but nothing for myself. I totally leave myself out of it,
Yeah.
or family or anything fun. Like that's like a complete afterthought if I get to it, if to even thinking about it.
Right.
Like it's totally gone. Never. And especially now that I can't really do much, um, because of health and stuff and everything happening. Um, yeah, well, like I don't know what would I time chunk for myself and provide that relief for myself other than just the business stuff.
Yeah. And so that is a big piece that affects mindset too, though, right?
Mhm.
Because I know that when we got started in this business, because there was so much to learn, and it felt like drinking from a fire hose. And so I thought about it all the time, and I was trying to build a pipeline, and I was under time pressure because I had started, right, I had been laid off from a job. And so I needed to get something going that was actually going to produce a paycheck sooner than later. And so I also worked really hard to build my pipeline faster, if at all possible. And so I put a ton of effort in, and that built a habit pattern for me at the beginning. And before I know it, I'm a couple years into this business, and all I do is business. All I do is real estate. And I wasn't fully aware of it, because the tricky thing about certain businesses, real estate being one of them, is they do rely on some social aspects. So
Yeah.
our business, right? We have a lot of networking that happens. Before we were working with our mentors, we had a lot of meetings and office time that was happening in order to keep things organized, and make sure that each person was up to date on whatever it was that they needed to be doing in the transaction. And so it felt like we were getting social time.
Yes.
It felt like that.
Good point.
But in truth, what I realized when I started experiencing burnout, I didn't know what it was. I didn't understand that it was burnout, because it didn't feel like, when I was in a W-2 job, for me personally, real easy to determine burnout because I hated being chained to a desk. I did not want to sit in a cubicle for 8 hours with other people that I didn't really like, uh, and I was frequently bored because I'm not good at doing the same thing every day over and over again without any change. So burnout from those things was real easy for me to diagnose because I already knew I was in a space that I didn't enjoy. But it snuck up on me when I became a business owner because I liked the people I was doing business with. So when I got to socialize with those people at the office, I enjoyed hanging out with my mentors. I enjoyed hanging out with Angie and her husband. I liked all of those people that were involved. So it didn't occur to me that I was getting burnt out because I was focused on work all the time. Because
Right.
I thought that I was also socializing. But what I wasn't doing was taking specific time that had nothing to do with real estate and working on a hobby or a separate project or something that was entertaining. It took me like 3 or 4 years to finally get to a point where I realized that was a problem and I had to go pursue an outside hobby. And that affected my mindset, and I didn't know it was affecting my mindset. I didn't know I was burnt out.
Right.
And I was just like, oh, I just gotta stay motivated. I just gotta hustle hard.
Yeah.
And I didn't know. So those things they can really sneak up on you. What was your experience like with that, Ange?
It's I think it still sneaks up on me because I don't think I mean, other than thank God for my dog, I think. Because I feel like there's a lot of times where it's just at least I make time to play with him and to make sure that he gets his exercise and like that kind of, so it totally plucks me out of, like you said, socializing and being active, within the real estate community. And it's so funny that you say that you were, because we are social and we need to meet and do things together, just discuss deals and all that good stuff. But there came a time where I was like, oh God, we have to meet again. Like, oh God, do we have to, do we have to go to this meeting? Do I have to go to this networking event? And you like pull yourself to go and push yourself to be there. Tell yourself that you're doing the right thing and on. And it's just like this. If you're trying to convince yourself to do something or be somewhere because that's for the good of your business, that shouldn't happen. You should be there because you want to be there and because you know that the outcome is going to be great, no matter what. You have high expectations and you yourself want to be there. So I found myself where I did not want to sit at a meeting anymore and discuss things because I felt like, and I am horrible. This is something on me that I know about myself. I'm not good at long meetings. And I tune out maybe like 30 minutes in. Like my brain kind of shuts down and I'm in a totally different place. And at this point, my attitude changes. Everything about me does not want to be there. And I start to get kind of snippy. And then I don't really provide any feedback or any good information to the group, nor am I taking in anything from the group either. So it just, as the more and more we did it, the worse it got. So finally I had to tell myself like, no, like you have to definitely go to the meeting, focus, get yourself out of there as fast as possible with the things that you need to do, and then either read, go take a walk, do something, talk to somebody that you haven't spoken to, because we tend to just kind of circle ourselves with just real estate people that we forget about our other friends. that we had in the past, maybe before you owned a business, or your pet, which for me was Yoda. So I've tried now my hardest to just pause. And I know I work for somebody right now, and I have to be very conscious of my time and how I use because it's their time and mine. But I also have to know, I know myself and my health, that mental health, that I need to hang out with Yoda or talk with Lisa on the phone or whatever, or talk to my mom. It doesn't matter. But I need that space, that little chunk of time for myself.
Yeah. Yeah. And all of that contributes directly to mindset stuff.
Yeah.
Right. Because absolutely. So knowing your own strengths and weaknesses in your business so that you can have some more control over those, that's a huge thing. Understand, like, knowing that you need to limit time in meetings is a big deal, because if you're forcing yourself to have really long meetings, and this is your business, this is not some boss telling you that you have to be in a meeting, you're creating a space that's going to be detrimental to your mindset when you don't have to do that, right? Yeah. So recognizing those things is a big deal, and it can be really difficult. Like, when you're in business for yourself and you get used to that eating, sleeping, breathing the business, it can be difficult because, like, for example, one of the things that Angie and I have in common, completely outside of real estate, is we both absolutely are huge music fans, and we like tons of the same kind of music. Ask us how often we talk about music. It's almost like we forget.
I know.
Forget.
Yeah. Uh-huh.
And then we'll accidentally stumble upon talking about music, and we're like, oh my God. But you need that. You need those people. And you need to be able to do those things, because you have to refresh your mindset. You can't like white knuckle perfect mindset all the time. You'll burn out. And
that too. Yeah.
Yeah. And it's difficult. And I think especially so when it's your business, because, I understand that there are definitely jobs out there where people think about it after they've left the office for the day or whatever. But I think that I think it's more common for business owners to feel like they don't get any separation from their business. Whereas employees feel a sense of separation when they leave, and they're, they come home after a day at the office, or they have a weekend off, or they take vacations. When you own the business, you might have intentions of doing all of those things, but yeah, it's never really 100% separate from you. No. That is a different beast to deal with. It really is. So making sure that you take time for other activities. And this is the thing too, is people will come down on you. People in your business or in the entrepreneur community will come down on you, and they will say that it's a waste of time and that you should be focusing on your business all the time. I'm sorry, I think that's bullshit. And the reason that I think it's bullshit is because nobody can focus on one thing all the time and be effective at it. Your brain has to have breaks in order for you to be able to innovate and think creatively, and recharge and refresh. It needs those things. So if you think about it like school, nobody on the planet would say, well, when you're in school, you should just be doing school 24/7 and you should never get a break from school. Yeah. So don't let business people tell you that that's how you should run your business. That's nonsense.
Yeah. And I almost feel like too, though, you yourself know your business, or you should know your business. So you can figure out what needs to happen next for you to continue your successful business. Because I feel there will be times, absolutely, where you will not have time for yourself because you happen to be working on something, or you need to get something done for the good of your business, and that's okay. But I think what Lisa's point is, you do have to take some time away from it, just because our brains are work that way. You have to step away in order to kind of recharge, clear your head, and look at things from a different lens, even because you can come back to it and see it in a completely different way. I mean, how many times where we've had in dealing with a seller that's just been completely hard and difficult to deal with, and we just kind of step away for a little bit and not be inclined to run that text really fast again to them because you guys are going on having like a texting fight. It's like, nope, just move away, do something else, whether it is taking a walk, journaling, or if maybe you need to do something else for your business, then come back to it, because it's surprisingly your brain has already kind of moved itself to another space, and you've thought of maybe a different kind of approach, or maybe something totally different, new idea just came to you, you're super creative, and now you've been able to place something in agreement that they like and the deal works. It's happened a couple of times for us. I know that you've had that where you go back, finally you're okay, we just need to take a breather,
Yeah.
and come back to it, because you can't grind the entire, doesn't help you or the other person if you happen to be dealing with somebody else.
Yeah, I agree with that 100%. If there's a difficult problem to be solved, sometimes the best thing that you can do is walk away from it for a little bit. So you can look at it with fresh eyes in a while, and something that would not have occurred to you before to solve the problem may come easily at that point.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so I've definitely had that experience. I know you have too. And I know that we've been in a position where one of us was was in the middle of that, having a difficult time, and consulted the other person and said, I don't know what to do with this. And that's a huge help.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. I know there's one particular time where we haven't talked about this topic yet, but where I was fuming and I didn't know what to do. I was like, I had already cried. I had already told people off. I was just not in a good place. And then Lisa's like, what about a bridge loan? And I'm thinking, oh. It just, because you're so in your head and you're going back and forth with this, the group of people, whoever it is. And then somebody, comes in on the other end and says, what have you thought about this? So yeah, makes a massive, massive difference to just, for the sake and the health of your mindset, to step away.
Yeah.
Just, even if it's just for a couple of minutes, even breathing has a lot to do with that.
For sure. So let's talk about some of the things that we do to try to maintain mindset, because I know that, I'm far from perfect. I have to say that 2020 has been a huge mindset challenge for me. Huge. Like
2020 is a shit show.
Man,
that's the mindset. No, I'm kidding.
It really is. It really is. Some days I have to tell myself that I am starting over like multiple times throughout the day, even. Yeah. And then sometimes, like, maybe it's a particularly, like, things have been sort of so crazy that maybe there's a particularly bad week, like things just keep happening through the week, and I'll go, you know what, screw it. I'm not even going to think about dealing with anything until Monday, because I just need like a reset totally. So yeah. Mindset has been especially difficult this year, but there are a lot of things that you can do to try to train your mindset, and to try to keep you in the space that you need to be to keep going. And so one of the things that I've done, I've listened to a lot of business books. I get a lot of recommendations from everybody I know that's also an entrepreneur about what books did they like and why, how did it affect them. And I kind of, now after having some experience, I have some go-to people that I'll say, do you have new book recommendations? Because I know that we tend to like the same things. So there are a lot of business books out there that you would think, when you hear the term that it's a business book and you understand that it's nonfiction, you make the assumption, at least I did, that it's going to be dry and it's going to be, a bunch of like statistics and boring, sort of step by step, how you build a corporation kind of thing. Like that was like what I had in my head, thinking, oh my God, I've got to read business books. Now, full
Yeah.
disclosure, I have 2 English degrees, and so
Mhm.
I'm a big word nerd. And when I read a book, I like to enjoy a book. I like to enjoy fiction. So that was
Right.
a big stretch for me. But what I found out was a lot of business books actually talk a ton about mindset, about psychology, about really interesting things and what your day to day should look like. And when I realized that, it made a really big difference for me. So I started not only reading business books, but also finding books on Audible.
Mhm.
Was another thing that I never thought that I would be into. I will never listen to fiction on Audible. I don't want fiction being dictated to me. I want to read it. Um, However, when I'm listening to something that has to do with mindset and has to do with changing your thinking or making adjustments in thinking to get to get a specific result,
Mhm.
found that listening to a book I will pick up different things than I pick up when I read the book.
Yeah.
So that's been very interesting too. So I have tons of books on my Kindle and tons of books in my Audible, and I will listen to things repeatedly, because you treat these more like textbooks. You're not going to pick everything up from the book the very first go through. Your brain is going to pick up different things every single time. So my favorites, I go through them multiple times, and I've come to recognize what kind of content I might need to listen to in order to reset my brain and get it back in the right place.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I think, do you have specific times now, like where you scheduled your Audible listenings or your, or reading and all that? Do you have now scheduled time, or do you just do it when you feel like you need to do it?
So I have tried to create a morning habit, and I stick with this most of the time. So the majority of the time, what I do is I get up and I walk first thing in the morning, and I listen to Audible when I walk. And so that's nice because I'm knocking out 2 things at one time. Um, I would also, when I was in the car a lot, I would listen to Audible in the car sometimes as well. I would say half the time I'd listen to Audible and half the time I would listen to music. But these days I'm not in the car too much. So I'm doing my Audible in the morning with my walk. And then I will come back from my walk and I have a couple of other morning routine things that I do. And then I will try to get in 30 minutes of reading before I start other things. And then sometimes in the evening, I'll do additional reading as well.
Yeah. Yeah, I feel like you have to somewhat schedule it or you're not gonna really do it. Um, I definitely I'm big on I'm big on Pinterest and journaling. So I write quite a bit actually. And I write when I feel like it, when I think I need to do it because it provides a release for me. I'm not good at so I guess for me, for what do I do for my mindset is I, I have a hard time sometimes putting things into words and talking about it. So my major release, especially it has most of the time it has to be in the morning. But again, I'll journal if I have to, period, even if it's just a piece of paper.
Yeah.
But in the morning when I get up and have tea, um, and usually I'll meditate, and it's either whether I use an app or I just breathe exercises or I happen to be listening to something. I meditate for about a good 30 minutes, I would say. And then I journal again for another 30 minutes. And I just, it's like vomit on the paper. Like I write everything from every single thing that I hate to everything that I love, to everything that I want. Like everything is out on that paper. And I have to tell you, like, it is such a release. And I don't feel like I'm holding on to anything because at this point, I think then I'm kind of I get ready to like, okay, step into my day now. And yes, I'll listen to Audible on my way to the office or while I'm at the office. I could totally put one of the books on as long as I hear that kind of sound that and you pick up little things here and there and I'll go back and I know you will re-listen to books as well. That's what I love about Audible because you can go back and continue to pick up on things. But yeah, big time on Audible and big time on journaling. And I've gotten to the point where my journals are now, I mean, I cut out pictures, I paste them on there, like everything that's just, it looks like this big, massive, like a really ugly scrapbook, but that's okay. It's my scrapbook and it's my journal. And I've kept my journals from years, like that I've had throughout my life. And it's funny to like go back and see some of the things that I still do, like the affirmations and things that I do, some things that I'm still complaining about that will probably never ever go away. Like my mom making me mad or, you know, that sort of thing. Or I ate too much, too many cookies the night before or whatever. But then there's some things that I actually, you know, went through and accomplished, or I did. It's incredible what you can put down on paper. And when you check back into it a couple of years later, or even months, and things happen, it's awesome. It's just it makes you feel really, really good. And I think that was really helpful for your mindset.
Absolutely. I'm really glad you mentioned that because I think you can do so many different things for your mindset. So first, journaling can clear your mind so that you can just like brain dump everything.
Yeah.
And when you need to focus on business stuff, you don't have like whatever other thing that's, you know, that was bothering you. You don't have that like looming over you anymore.
Right.
So I think that makes a huge difference with mindset. I think it makes a huge difference, you know, that you can incorporate into your journaling like gratitude or things that you want, different things that you want to maybe change and like ideas for how to do that. Tons and tons of things
Yeah.
that journaling can help with. And, you know, I was one of those people that was like, about meditation. My mind is not a quiet mind. I have a lot of anxiety and my mind is constantly going. And so I thought that meditation would be one, really difficult for me and two, kind of useless. But at the suggestion of a friend, I started using the Headspace app about maybe a year and a half ago. And it actually has made quite a difference. I'm still not great at it, which is why I have to use an app.
So why? Yeah, absolutely.
But doing that practice actually is more helpful than you would think. And I think that it has made a difference in being able to, you know, work on my mindset and where it needs to be. Also, Headspace has these lovely Australian narrators, and so their guided meditations are the best thing because I could just listen to them all day. And if you need to calm down, that's actually a really good way to calm down.
Yeah.
For me.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, even if you don't want to use an app, you can go on YouTube. You can do. I'm big on what they call water breathing, whiskey breathing, coffee breathing, which is the 3 different types of yoga breathing that you can do to calm yourself down. Because I do suffer from anxiety, and I have had anxiety now for the last couple of years. I have some really good years, and then some years where I'm like, oh my God, like it just feels like I can't get out of this. But the breathing and the meditating, it's hard. I'm sorry. And that I did feel better when I talked to a meditation instructor at one point, and he told me that there is no way that you can shut your mind off. It takes years upon years for you to like shut it off and just concentrate on your breathing. if you are lucky enough to be one of those people that just kind of gets right into it, great. Otherwise, no. But just the fact that you are trying and that you're there, and that when you realize that, oh, I'm not concentrating on my breathing, that you are now kind of a step closer to getting into that more of a meditative state. But as long as you're there and you're trying it and pausing, you're basically pausing for yourself, it makes a really big difference in what your mindset is at that time.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, those things, I think those things make a much bigger difference than anyone would really believe if they haven't worked on that, and utilized those things. But definitely, books, Audible, journal, meditate. If you just start adding those things, you will find that you can keep your mindset more consistent, and also you can realize faster when your mindset's going to a place that you don't really want it to be. You can catch it, and then you have tools to use, because the idea is not that like you like train your mind and then it's perfect and it just does it's like exercising. Like if you're exercising to get in shape or to lose weight, like you don't get to that place and then stop exercising, right? Because then it'll just go back to what it was. So
Yeah.
it's the same thing with the tools. Like you keep using the tools when you get off track to get back on track.
Mm-hmm.
And then I think too that it's the same thing with being consistent, having tools to help you keep consistent. So we talked about systems and automation, and that's a big part of it. But there's other tools that can help you to be consistent. I mean, simple things too. Like I love lists. Lists ease my anxiety. Lists make me feel under control. And so for me, if I have, I also love planners. So I have a great planner that I really, really like. And I keep my lists in my planner. And that's one of the very simple tools that I use to keep me consistent, because I know that I can sit down every morning and make a list of things that I need to do. And that helps me to stay on track. And it also helps me to realize if I'm doing too many things and I'm not consistently getting to my list, then I can go back and go, well, what adjustments do I need to make? Because I keep missing this thing. And now it's been on my list for like 3 days and I still haven't gotten to it. Right. So those tools are really helpful. People have apps on their phone that they really like for
Yeah.
things if they don't like to write out lists. I like to write them out, but I also, use things on my phone. People love Google Calendar just to keep track of tasks. And then, of course, we have in our business, we have CRMs that we use. And those not only help us to automate, but they also help us to keep, consistent in terms of we can have the CRM tell us when it's time to do something. You need to call this person. You need to send this email. You need to send this letter. And it pops up and it tells us what to do. And we're not juggling all of that on our own. So tools, are a big part of keeping your mindset and keeping your consistency up.
Absolutely. And I think the more and more you'll find, I think what you like to use the most. I remember I used to, as part of my journaling too, that didn't necessarily happen in my journal, but when I would have to go do the door knocking, I would write out everything that I would say, what I would think the conversation was going to be like. So I was more prepared when I was at the door. But I felt like me taking the time to write it all out like a play helped. Then I didn't feel like I was just running around like a crazy person trying to figure out how to talk to someone at the door or on the phone. Like those kinds of, you start to kind of figure out what works for you and what makes you prepare yourself more so that you can work on your business and get it to, automate itself, and kind of you start this routine, which is consistent, which is all the things that we've been talking about today. But yeah, it's just finding those tools that I think work the best for you. I know you're great at keeping an agenda. I used to be really good at that. I don't know what happened. Like, because I use Google Calendar now, but then I realized I need to revamp that side of things. I do make lists. I have to, because there's a lot of things that I need to do during the day. And you do feel a little more control, of your day. But the calendaring, I think, has kind of thrown me a little bit because I have calendar for the office where I am working right now, calendar for my business,
Hmm.
calendar for all the other things that I'm doing. Um, so somehow I need to kind of incorporate or find a system that kind of blends all those three so that I don't miss out on things or push things aside because I feel like they can be done at another time.
Yeah.
Which then creates problems. So I think Trello, I think, is one of the apps that I know people really
Yeah.
like.
It's a great
Yeah, although to add another app, I'm like, oh my god,
app.
I don't want to add another app to my phone. However, I guess if it's for the to better myself and my business, I'm gonna have to do it. So I'll figure that out. Maybe we'll revisit this too
Yeah.
to
Yeah.
see kind of what we put into play for the rest of the because we're 6 months into this year,
Yeah.
everybody. We only have 6 months left. This is half of the year. Half of the year that went to, I feel like, absolutely nothing. At least to me, that's what it feels like because
Yeah.
everything's kind of at a standstill.
Yeah.
Um, so yeah. So what are we gonna do these next 6 months?
Right. Right. Well, and I suspect that there will be more change coming in the
Yeah,
next months, and so we will need to continue readjusting probably and changing business practices and things like that. Um, so yeah, maybe when changes like that happen, maybe there are tools that don't work as well, and you find something else, that you like to use in its place. And there are challenges too, right? So our business, we can calendar things all we want, but that doesn't mean that everything is going to go exactly on schedule. We have closings all the time that get pushed out
yeah.
or that need to happen faster, things like that. So definitely nothing is perfect, uh,
Hmm.
because again, when it's, when your business is a little bit chaotic and it can depend on a number of different people and what kinds of things they're doing or not doing, that can affect your agenda too.
Yeah,
So yeah, so absolutely, I think different tools work well for different people, and even different tools work well for different cycles in your business.
true. Yeah, that's a really good point because people tend to if they've only used one type of system for such a long time, they tend to just want to keep using that system. It's hard because
Yeah.
you get so close to it and you know that that's what works for you.
Yeah.
But we don't have the luxury of that right now. Like
Right.
we've got to kind of think on our toes, and be on our toes and move, do what we need to do for
Yeah.
the betterment of our business.
And we've made some transitions along the way in our business. So when we went from a model of consistently door knocking to a model of consistently sending out letters and texts and things like that, we had to make some adjustments because the things that we created habits around with door knocking were not the same things that were happening when we changed the way that we marketed to people,
Yeah.
right? So sometimes your tools, are going to change, and sometimes that's going to sort of change what habits you need to have in order to stay consistent. Because going from, creating a map and going out knocking doors almost every day is a totally different animal than sitting down at the computer and going, I need to print this many letters and I need to get this stuff to the post office and I need to text this many people. That's a different procedure, right?
Yeah.
So things will change, and you'll have to adjust as you go, to keep your keep your patterns in play that give you your consistency, that that's going to give you the results that you need in the business.
Yeah. And I think, but the big thing too about this to keep a healthy mindset and to be consistent is to just not forget about yourself.
Yes.
Um, so whether you're a guy or a girl out there trying to, start real estate investing, like make sure that you do have that time to vent, to relax, to run ideas by somebody else. Again, like we've said many, many, many times, your go-to person, your mentor, somebody that you just kind of want to, just shoot the shit basically.
Yeah.
and see where things land, because that will make a massive, massive difference in not trying to do everything on your own.
It will. It will. And I know for me, another thing that really has an influence on my mindset personally, think about the things that work for you. Think about the things that motivate you, or think about the things, that feel good when you're doing work, that make you feel productive. My method of working is much more like a student than it is like an office worker. So, I know people in our industry that are like, that they have an office in their home and they sit at a desk with their laptop and their phone, and they have a dialer and they have all these things. And like that feels too corporate for me. I don't like that particular setup, because that makes me feel like I'm trapped in a W-2 job again. So the way that works for me is to get my laptop and sit on the couch with my dogs and put on a movie while I'm sitting there on my laptop doing my marketing, or to go out on my patio and sit in my zero gravity chair with my laptop and have the breeze, and be able to sit outside. And I find it easier to focus that way, because for me, I always thrived being a student. So if I can recreate that kind of energy, like I would far rather go work in a library during the day. If I have to go to a quiet space and knock something out, I'll go to a library or a Starbucks. You will not find me, going and paying for office space. I don't want to have anything to do with an office, because I can't focus in an office. But you have to find the thing that works for you. And then you create that space, so that it feels good to go to that space and get your stuff done every day.
Yeah. And because I've worked from home for such a long time, and now obviously, we have an office, so I go to the office. I did realize when I did not have a home office and when I did not have somewhere to go, I was a mess. So I am the opposite. I think I need a desk, and I think you can see behind me, like, even though there's a TV, the TV is usually running some sort of like motivational movie or YouTube video. So it's either Amy Landino or Gary Vee, or, somebody is on that TV, and it's kind of low, but they're still talking, or Mark Kohler. so that's what I have. As long as I have that, and the desk, the computer, and the printer, and like everything is right there, I'm so much better that way. Because I have ADD, and if I go to the pool,
right,
it's not gonna. If I sit outside, yeah, that bird that flew by, that's got all my attention. So it's different for everybody.
Yeah,
you just do what works for you.
Yeah, absolutely. So yeah, it's I think one of the things that we can say right now is mindset and consistency are probably going to be a challenge for everyone in the current climate. And don't be too hard on yourself. Like, there's a lot of distractions right now, and things are changing every day, and I think everyone feels like a lot of things are up in the air. And so all you can do during a time like this is do your best to find your whatever grounds you, and find your anchors so that you can get some things done, do what you can, and go from there. Beating yourself up about it isn't going to help. And I say that as someone who beats myself up about it all day, every day. So don't be like me.
Yeah, don't do that. Yeah, don't do that, Lisa. It's hard, I think, right now, especially right now, because again, we're all struggling a little bit, or maybe you're not. Maybe you totally have it down right now, and you're like on a high, and you're doing awesome. If you are, I would really like it if you could put something on our comments and tell us like what you're doing or what's the routine. Like maybe, you know, share a little bit of a nugget and somebody can benefit from it.
Absolutely.
But there's for some of us that are struggling a little bit, and there we need kind of discipline, consistency, and the mindset. It is going to be a little rough for a little bit.
Yeah. And
But
it just is what it is. Every day is a new day. Just get back at it again. That's really all that you can do. You know, and think about it as a marathon versus a sprint. You know, this is all cumulative. It's little things that are going to build up over time that are going to end up, you know, giving you a return on what it is that you're doing.
yeah, absolutely. Yeah. That's all we want.
Yep.
Yeah. All right then. So then we'll see everybody on Thursday.
Yes, we will.
Everybody stay out of trouble. Drink your water.
Yeah, it's getting hot. Yeah. So do that. Stay hydrated. Stay safe.
Stay safe. That's the biggest thing.
Yeah. A lot going on out in the world right now. So we'd love to hear your comments about whatever it is that you're doing for your mindset and to stay consistent right now, because it might give other people some great ideas. So feel free to drop that in the comments. And we will be brainstorming our next topic, and we'll be letting you guys know on our Facebook pages what that's going to be. And we'll see everyone on Thursday afternoon.
Awesome.
All right.
Great. Thank you, Lisa.
Thank you, ma'am.
All right. I'll talk to you guys soon. Bye.